are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, November 22nd. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to recap yesterday's game between the Steelers and the Browns. The Browns picking up the win in that contest. We'll get into that in just a second. Then a couple of previews of individual games. Second part of the show, we will preview the 49ers-Packers game, rematch of the divisional round from last year. We'll also get into talking about the Sunday night matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. And then the final two segments, like we usually do, I'll take a look at the college football matchups for this weekend, take a look back at the matchups from last week, what happened, and then we'll take a look at the early slate of games in the NFL, the early window, and then in the final part of the show, we'll take a look at the late window. Now, we're going over a couple of late window games. There's 4 late window games in total. You got the 3 afternoon games, and then the Sunday night game, of course, which we're going to cover in the second and third segments. So the other 2 late window games we will talk about. So let's get into the first topic, which is discussing the Steelers-Browns game from yesterday. And it was an interesting game. They said there was going to be bad weather. And, there were some snow flurries in the beginning. But then it really picked up. And both teams were playing in a full-on blizzard by the end of the game. And through it all, the Browns picked up the win. And, for the most part, for the majority of the game, the Browns did have the lead. It was a pretty slow, ugly game, but it picked up in the fourth quarter. It was a very, very entertaining fourth quarter. Both teams in the fourth quarter scored a combined 27 points. So when I said yesterday to take the under, through 3 quarters, it was looking pretty good because the Browns were winning 10-6. But then, like I said, the fourth quarter happened. And that's when the weather got really bad. You couldn't really see anything. But that's what happened. And we'll kind of go through it. So the Steelers got the ball to start the game, and they went 9 plays, 39 yards down the field. And they got down to the Cleveland 40. And I wasn't really a fan of this, just because I wasn't really sure, with the weather conditions. I mean, Boswell has been awesome, but I wasn't really sure in these weather conditions how he would be. And especially from 58 yards out, I didn't think he was going to make it. And it ended up going to the right. And he ended up missing the 58-yard field goal. So no points there. Then the Browns got the ball, and they went 3 and out very quickly. And then the Steelers got the ball. You had a 31-yard reception by George Pickens on this drive. They got down to the Cleveland 38, and they went for it on 4th and 2. They tried to do a design run with Justin Fields, which they did a little bit more of that in this game, and he got stuffed. The Browns were ready for that, and the Steelers turned it over on downs. Then the Browns punted, and then the Steelers, they scored the first points of the game. They went 10 plays, 59 yards. You had Russell Wilson connecting with Calvin Austin for 46 yards. He has really made some good plays for them this season, both as a receiver and special teams as well. The punt return against the Giants earlier this year. So, and that was a good throw by Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson could still air it out. We've seen that over the course of these games that he has started this year, but he could still air it out. And later in the drive, that resulted in a Boswell 48-yard field goal. So he made that one. So that made it 3-0. And then the Browns answered. They went 12 plays, 80 yards down the field, almost 7 minutes of time possession. The first play of the drive, Jameis Winston connected with Jerry Jeudy for 16 yards. He had a good game. And we'll get into his stats when we go over both teams. So they had to go for it on 4th and 1 at one point. Nick Chubb picked up the first down. And then later in the drive, Nick Chubb scored from 2 yards out. He had a couple of rushing touchdowns in this game. The explosiveness of Chubb, it's still not there. I'm hoping that, next year we'll really get this. I mean, maybe we'll see it towards the end of this year, and then next year we'll see. But, he's still trying to work his way back. But the fact that he was able to find the end zone a couple times in this game, you love to see that. And he had the go-ahead touchdown as well. So then later in the game, or the next drive, the Steelers got the ball, and Russell Wilson ended up getting sacked. He lost the ball, and it was recovered at the Steelers' 31, and the Browns turned that into a field goal, a Dustin Hopkins 34-yarder. So, yeah, it was 10-6 or 10-3 at the half. Then the Browns fumbled. Jameis's first turnover of the game. Actually, no. Akins fumbled. Jameis did fumble later in the game. But actually, it was recovered by the Browns. But then Cedric Tillman ended up fumbling. Jameis connected with him for 24 yards, but then he ended up fumbling, and he got taken out of the game. So the Steelers got the ball, but they turned it over on downs. Jaylen Warren ended up getting stuffed on 4th and 1. The Browns punted. Steelers then kicked another field goal. Russell Wilson connected with Van Jefferson for 35 yards. They went for it on 4th down again. Russell Wilson picked up the first down by completing a pass to Pat Freiermuth. And then Boswell later in the drive, 28-yard field goal. But then the Browns answered with the touchdown drive. This is when the snow really started to come down. And they went for it on 4th and goal. And Jameis ended up picking up the touchdown. I thought he was going to get sacked, but he ended up scrambling and scoring. Now, the play before that, David Njoku dropped a wide-open touchdown. So this was kind of a gamble, but they had to do it because I guess, they really, after the week that Dustin Hopkins had, they just did not trust him. So Jameis ended up scoring the touchdown. They went for 2, and Njoku caught that. That was a tougher catch on the 2-point conversion. So that put them up 18-6. And you thought at that point, with the weather, that the Browns were going to win this game. And they still ended up winning the game. But the Steelers came back. They put together a 7-play, 69-yard drive. Justin Fields had a scramble on this drive of 30 yards. So that set them up. And eventually they got down the field, and Jaylen Warren scored from 3 yards out. So that made it 18-13. And Boswell made the extra point. And then Jameis, on their next drive, that's when he fumbled. He fumbles. It was recovered by Deshaun Elliott. And the Steelers turned that into a touchdown. Russell Wilson connected with Calvin Austin for a 23-yard touchdown. And they went for 2 and didn't get it. And then Jameis threw a pick. So then, at that point, I thought, all right, well, the Steelers are going to win. And then that didn't happen because they ended up punting. And the Browns got the ball. They went 9 plays, 45 yards down the field. They picked up a 4th down. Jameis completed a pass to Jerry Jeudy. And eventually, they got down to the Steelers 2, and Nick Chubb from 2 yards out scored. And that made it 24-19. And the Steelers, they threw a Hail Mary at the end of the game. Nobody could see it because the snow was just really coming down. And it got batted down, and the Browns win. And they pull off another upset against a fellow AFC North opponent. Russell Wilson on the day went 21-28 for 270 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Jaylen Warren had 11 carries for 45 yards. Najee Harris had 16 carries for 41 yards. Justin Fields had 3 for 26. Calvin Austin, 3 for 78 and a touchdown, 3 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown. Pat Fryermuth had 4 for 59. George Pickens, 4 for 48. He was getting into it with the refs and then with the Browns fans at the end. After the Hail Mary, there was people holding him back because he was getting into it with the fans, I'm guessing. He was not happy. And then after the game, he was saying that the Browns are not a very good team, that they got lucky with the weather conditions. And, of course, social media was not kind to him because they were saying, and it's true, the Steelers were playing, or the Browns were playing in the same conditions. Well, both teams are playing in the same conditions. I did want to bring up T.J. Watt. He only had 1 tackle in this game and 3 assists, but no sacks. And Myles Garrett had a very good game. 3 sacks on the day and the forced fumble. And I didn't realize, looking at the box score, Devin Bush is also on the Browns. I did not realize that. Former Steeler. But, they interviewed Myles Garrett at the end of the game, and, he talked about how there's a ton of respect between the two guys, but he's declared himself being the best. He was better on this day. Looking at the other stats, so Jameis Winston, 18 of 27, 219 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Nick Chubb, 20 carries for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy, 6 receptions for 85 yards. He had a good game. Jordan Akins, 3 for 38. And Njoku caught the 2-point conversion. He only had 1 reception for 9 yards. Cedric Tillman, 2 for 28. Browns defense in total, 3 sacks, like I said, by Myles Garrett, and then 1 by Jordan Hicks, the middle linebacker. But Browns get the win. They improved to 3-8. Steelers dropped to 8-3. And this is one of those games where you throw out the record books. I knew that this game was going to be close. I did not think that the Browns were going to win, but they pulled it off. And, they're just playing for pride at this point. That's really what it comes down to. They're playing for pride, and, we'll see what kind of record they finish with. They still got one more game with the Ravens. They still got another game with the Steelers and another game with the Bengals. So, Jameis, you saw the good and you saw the bad. The defense showed up at times, and this is what I worry about with the Steelers' offense. The times that they have struggled. The first half they struggled. And that's, what has Steeler fans worried is because, they're going to make the playoffs, but, are they going to be able to beat some of these elite teams? Now, they beat the Ravens. But if you got to go on the road and you got to play a Buffalo or a Kansas City, are you going to be able to keep up with those teams offensively? That I'm not sure. The defense still played good, but they got turnovers, but it didn't matter. They still lost the game. But look, the Steelers were not going to go. They weren't going 15-2 on the season. It wasn't happening. So, they were going to eventually lose, and that's what happened. So, now they're going to try to go 14-3. So we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our first break. When we come back, we will preview the afternoon game between the Packers and the 49ers on Sunday. So make sure to stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the second part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Packers 49ers game for Sunday, the rematch of the divisional round from last year. So let's get into that. And this time it will be played in Lambeau Field. And, the Packers coming in at 7-3, coming off of that win against the Bears on the blocked field goal. The Niners coming off of that tough loss against the Seahawks at the very end. And, we'll see what the status is of some of the key players in this matchup. There's some guys that are banged up. Brock Purdy dealing with shoulder soreness. George Kittle with the hamstring, but he said he's going to play, so that's encouraging. Getting him back is huge for this game. And then also you have Nick Bosa. And, if they don't have Nick Bosa for this game, that's going to be tough. Because you saw when he got pulled out of the game against the Seahawks, the 49ers pass rush just could not get anything going. They could not stop the Seahawks. They let Geno Smith and that offense have their way. So actually, looking at an update from a couple days ago, so Nick Bosa, as of right now, it says will be evaluated throughout the week. Travarius Ward, one of their corners, he could be back against the Packers, so that would be huge. George Kittle, like I said, could be back. I'm seeing that Nick Bosa missed practice again, so that's not good. If they don't have him, that's going to be a huge blow for this team. But, look, it's not like... Look, the Packers, I think, are a good team, but the Packers have not played their best ball yet. Jordan Love continues to turn the ball over, which has been an issue. Look, they're still winning games, so they'll figure it out. It's kind of like what I was talking about with the Lions earlier in the year. Now look at the Lions. Look at what they've been doing to teams lately. Now, I'm not saying the Packers are going to be like that, but the Packers still haven't played their best ball yet. So, and the 49ers are coming in desperate. They are coming in desperate. And the Packers are coming off of that huge win. It looked like they were going to lose for the first time against the Bears in a long time. And it didn't happen. And like I just said, 49ers are coming in desperate. And they have to win this game. And will they be able to rise to the occasion and get the win? Right now they're the underdogs. Which usually that doesn't happen. The Niners usually are the favorites in a lot of their games. Not here. Not here. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be on the road. They're still trying to work in Christian McCaffrey, get him back to full strength. And he's coming along. He's made plays. I'd like to see him get in the end zone. Maybe that'll happen this week. With getting Kittle back, the Niners will at least have their full array of weapons. As long as Brock Purdy is able to play. Because now if you get Kittle back and now Purdy's out, then, that's going to be a huge blow. But I think he is going to play. Seems like he's going to play. So the 49ers will have their full array of weapons for this game. And, you saw last week against the Seahawks, they missed Kittle. They needed him back. And they're going to get him back for this game, and that's going to open things up for them. Not just, in the passing game, but in the running game as well, because George Kittle can block. That's what makes him such a very good tight end. He's very versatile. He can do a lot of different things for this team. And, with him being back, like I said, you open up the running game too. And maybe McCaffrey breaks off a big run for a touchdown or something in a crucial moment. So, like I said, the Niners are coming in. They want to win this game. Because right now, with the tiebreakers, they're in last place. They're in last place in their own division. Who would have thought that was going to happen? Now, I know people definitely expected them to, regress a little bit because of, the Super Bowl hangover, and they did. And the other thing, too, is they are a few plays away, and I'm pretty sure I brought this up. They're a few plays away from being 8-2. If they're able to hold on to leads, and that has been their biggest problem all year, is the inability to close games out. You were up by a couple of scores against the Rams. You lost that. The Cardinals game, you blew that at the end. And then the most recent loss to the Seahawks. Those could have very easily have been wins. You could be 8-2 and you're a top 2 seed right now in the NFC. So the Niners are not far off. But they got to start winning games. And, you got a tough stretch here. The next 2 games are both road games, and they're against playoff teams. The Packers and against the Bills. And I said I think they could at least split the next 2 games. If they could do that and then get to, some home games, then you got the Dolphins after that, which Tua being back, they've looked better. We'll see. But I still think this team is going to make the playoffs. I still think this team is going to find a way to win this division. It would really shock me if this team ends up just flat out missing the playoffs entirely. But even some of the games that they've won, it was pretty close. I mean, the first meeting between the Seahawks, that got a little dicey at one point. They were able to close that game out. The Cowboys tried pulling off a late comeback against them. The Bucks and the Niners, that game, that was close. It took a game-winning field goal by Jake Moody, even though he missed a ton of field goals in that game. So, there's some games that they won that they could have lost. Right now, the line is 3. Niners are 3-point underdogs. And looking at the league rankings for these teams, the 49ers are 4th in passing yards per game. Packers are 11th. Obviously, that'd be a little bit higher if Jordan Love didn't miss some time. And then both teams, when it comes to running the football, they've both been solid. They're both top 10. Niners are 7th, and the Packers are 4th. Josh Jacobs has been really good for them. And he might be a problem for the Niners because, the Niners have had issues stopping the run at times. And, that could be something that happens here. Both teams are 8th in points per game, averaging 25 points per game. Then defensively, Niners are actually 6th against the pass, giving up an average of 210.1 passing yards per game. The Packers are 14th, giving up an average of 226.1 passing yards per game. Then against the run, Niners are 8th, Packers are 14th. So, you figure the ground game is going to play a factor in this matchup with McCaffrey on one side and Josh Jacobs on the other. And then points allowed, Packers defense is 10th, and the 49ers defense is 16th. And both quarterbacks have played well this season. Jordan Love, the interceptions are a little high with 11. Purdy has 8. That's something that they got to work on, is Jordan Love limiting the turnovers. And like I said, the 49ers are desperate. Packers, they also are like, hey, this team beat us in the playoffs last year. We want to avenge that loss. Because the Packers, they came very close to winning that game. One could argue that they should have won that game, but they didn't. And, the 49ers and the Packers, these are two franchises that have matched up a ton of times over the years. Obviously, even before, I was alive. But, I saw a lot of playoff matchups between these two teams. Obviously the Kaepernick game, the game-winning field goal in the 2013-2014 playoffs, the NFC Championship game when Raheem Mostert ran for over 200 yards. There were some regular season matchups as well. Back in 2021, a few years ago, you had Rodgers with those 2 throws to Devontae Adams that put them in the field goal range, and Mason Crosby made that. Of course, the 49ers still beat them in the playoffs without scoring an offensive touchdown that year, which that might have been Rodgers' last Well, that really was Rodgers' last chance to get back to a Super Bowl. But, yeah, it's kind of all gone in the 49ers' favor. So the Packers want to change that. And I think, this is a game, I think these teams are evenly matched. Because the way the 49ers are playing, the Packers are playing good football, not playing the best. I think it's anybody's game here, and especially with the Packers being at home. And the Packers can step up during these big games. I mean, remember last year, that Sunday night game against the Chiefs? The Packers won that. It's kind of got that same feel to it. Even though the Niners don't have a great record, they're still respectable. You still got Kyle Shanahan as the head coach, even though I think people have kind of maybe had enough of him because of just blown leads this season and just, not being able to get the job done in the playoffs, winning that big game. Because, those two Super Bowls that they lost to the Chiefs, they had a chance. But they ended up losing those leads. So, but having said all that, who do I think wins? I think the 49ers get this win. I think they're coming, like I said, I think they're coming in desperate. Packers are coming off of that miracle win against the Bears. Jordan Love has been solid, but has not been great. I think, turnovers could continue to be an issue in this game. I expect Christian McCaffrey to have a good game. Getting George Kittle back also is huge. And, you got to respect the Packers wide receivers on their side. Christian Watson coming off of that big game last week against the Bears. Jaden Reed has been good for them all year. Romeo Doubs has made plays for them, of course. They got, obviously their receivers are not as good as the 49ers receivers. Well, actually, it's kind of even now, receivers-wise. Deebo Samuel has kind of had a little bit of a disappointing year, with him being hurt and also dealing with pneumonia. Ricky Pearsall's working his way back. Juwan Jennings has been good. So it is, it's kind of even there. But, you got George Kittle back, so obviously that would, move the needle more towards the Niners and Christian McCaffrey as well. But, can't disrespect Josh Jacobs because he's been good for them this year as well. I think this will be a good game. This is going to be a close game, but I am going to take the Niners here. Now, if Nick Bosa is out, that's going to be a problem. But I still think that the Niners will squeak it out, get the win, get yourself back to over 500, and then go from there. But let me know what you guys think about this game. Who do you think wins? Let me know in the comments. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again, Zip or Donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button if you want to see any thought or comment. If you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. That is GSMCpodcast.net. So when we come back from our next break, we will talk about the Sunday Night Football matchup between the Rams and the Eagles. So make sure to stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Sunday night matchup between the Eagles and the Rams. An underrated matchup going into the weekend, or over the weekend. And the Rams are coming in at 5-5 on the year. The Eagles are coming in at 8-2. They did match up in the regular season last year, and the Eagles did win that game. I forget what the score was, but it was like early on. It was like week 3 or 4 of last year. And I'll pull up the stats from that game. But, this game, we got stars all over the place. Both quarterbacks, of course, the running backs, the receivers. It definitely has that Sunday night feel to it with these two teams, especially with the Rams. Obviously banged up this year, missing their top 2 receivers, but they will have them in this game, which will make it more entertaining. So this was back in week 5 of last year. The Eagles won that game 23-14. They shut out the Rams in the second half. It was 17-14 at the half, and then, like I said, the Eagles shut them out. So, let's see what happens in this game. But one thing I will say about the Eagles, their defense has been playing really well. They played well last week against the Commanders, a team that was playing really, really well offensively. And, they kind of shut them down. And, I do kind of worry about the Rams in this matchup just because, of, like I said, how well the Eagles defense is playing. And we saw, when they played the Dolphins defense a couple weeks ago, they just couldn't get anything going. And, I think the Eagles defense is probably the better unit of the two. So, yeah, like I said, I worry about the Rams in this matchup, especially with their young corners, their secondary. It's been playing really well. So, yeah, I do worry about the Rams and their offense in this matchup. And then, of course, with the Eagles and the playmakers they have on the offensive side of the ball, Saquon Barkley has been unbelievable this year. He has been everything as advertised, which, I think we all knew he was going to do well in Philly because he has an offensive line that he can actually run behind now. And, Jalen Hurts has done a nice job limiting the turnovers here. So, I do lean in the favor of the Eagles in this matchup. And looking at the offensive stats for these two teams, so the Rams are top 10 in passing yards per game, 255.7 they're averaging. The Eagles are only averaging 220.2, which is 21st. But they are the number 1 rushing team in the NFL. They are averaging 181.3 rushing yards per game. And it's not just Saquon Barkley, it's also Jalen Hurts as well running with the football. The Rams are 26th. They're only averaging 95.4 rushing yards per game. And then points per game, Eagles are 7th, Rams are 21st. And then defensively, Eagles defense is actually 2nd against the pass, giving up an average of 192.3. Rams defense is giving up an average of 245.4. And then rushing yards, they are giving up an average. The Eagles are top 10. They're 7th, giving up an average of 99.9. And the Rams defense is 18th, giving up an average of 127.3. And then points allowed, Eagles defense is 6th, Rams is 22nd. So really, when you look at it, right now it's advantage Eagles. And, that's not to say the Rams are not going to come out and, have a good game plan. Because the Eagles defense is still going to have to deal with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, who have both been great since they've come back. And look, the Rams, the first game that they came back, they played against the Vikings. And the Vikings, were playing really good football. They've kind of, toned it down a little bit since that 2-game losing streak. But, they're still winning games. That was a tough game, and the Rams were able to win that. So the Rams could win this game. But I just think the Eagles right now are the better team. I think when you look at the coaching matchup between Nick Sirianni and Sean McVay, you would take Sean McVay. But I think the Eagles have the better talent going in. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a big game here. Had a big game last week against the Commanders. Well, a big second half. Because the Commanders actually kind of shut him down for a while. But then he woke up and took over that game. And he really has been a difference maker for this team. I don't know what the Eagles would have been like had Saquon not have gotten there because the offense has still been good, but they have struggled. I mean, I've gone through the wins, some of their wins this year, but last week, the Commanders, look, a lot of people, including myself, thought that they were going to go into Philly and beat them, and they've done it before, and they played well against Philly last year, but Philly answered the bell, and they got the win, and this is a big game here. This is a big game for both. Well, this is really a bigger game for the Rams because the Eagles right now, their path to the playoffs is much easier than the Rams, mainly because their record is much better. And you know what? This might be a team that I also got right, the Eagles, because I picked them to win the division. I did. I thought we were going to see a return to how they were a couple years ago. Now the defense is playing good. Saquon's running the football effectively. You got A.J. Brown back. Devontae Smith, I think, was questionable once again going in, if I'm not mistaken, but he should play, I would imagine. Kind of looking at some of the injuries here. So, yeah, Devontae Smith, he did not practice on Thursday, so he's questionable going into this game. And then for the Rams on their side, I got a couple of offensive linemen that are questionable going in, but I would imagine they're probably going to be fine. And they're going to need to be because that Eagles pass rush, that Eagles defense can make things tough on Matthew Stafford. The matchup that you want to focus on is the Rams receivers against these Eagles corners. How is that going to go? Now, I think both sides are going to win their share of matchups. I don't think the Eagles defense is going to completely shut down Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua, he's been good since he's come back. Had a touchdown, his first touchdown of the season last week against the Patriots. Cooper Kupp had a couple of touchdowns as well. They're going to have their hands full with those receivers. They'll make their fair share of plays. I'm looking for Kyron Williams to have a big game because he hasn't scored a touchdown in a few weeks. Pretty much the first, 8 games of the season, he had a touchdown in like every game. Let me just double check. So, yeah, he had a touchdown. He hasn't scored a touchdown since October 20th against the Raiders. So I'm looking for him to get into the end zone this week. But this is a big game. This is a big game for the Rams. You're right there with the other teams in your division. Right now, they're in second place, right? Yeah, they're in second place in their division because they have the tiebreaker over the Seahawks and the Niners. But they're a game behind the Cardinals, and the Cardinals play the Seahawks this week. So we could see a scenario where if the Seahawks win, then you're going to have 4, 6, and 5 teams. If also the Niners win as well. So if every team except the Seahawks win, you're going to have a tie for first place for everybody. It's going to be a 4-way tie. So I'm hoping for that. Partly because of my picks, but I have the Eagles winning this matchup, so it wouldn't happen. But I'll take it. I mean, if the Rams win, I'll take it. Because the Rams are one of my wild card teams, and they still have a chance to do it. But, this is a tough game here. And I do like the Eagles to win. I'm going to say the final score is around 28-24. I think it's going to be high scoring. Like I said, the Eagles defense has been playing well, but I don't think they're not going to do what the Dolphins defense did. I think that might have just been an aberration. I think they'll get pressure on Matthew Stafford, maybe force Stafford into a mistake, but I do think the Rams will get into the end zone in this game, not like they did on Monday night where they kicked 5 field goals. So, but having said that, though, I like the Eagles in this spot. They're playing good football right now, and I think that continues here. And like I said, right now they're in a great spot to win the division. And I did have them winning the division before the year started. Didn't look good. Looked like Washington might take it, but the Eagles are really talented. And, that collapse from last year, as for the moment, looks like a thing of the past. And Saquon Barkley has made a huge difference. I think if you have DeAndre Swift running the football again this year, like Swift was good for them last year, don't get me wrong, but Saquon has made a huge difference. Saquon's the better runner of the two. And, that just makes them that much better. And the defense has made improvements from last year. So, it's a good football team. This is a dangerous team going into the playoffs. And I think right now, this is the team that has the best shot to knock off the Lions at this very moment. Because, you look at the NFC South and how the Falcons are playing, and I don't even know if they're going to win the division. The Bucks get Mike Evans back, so, that could get a little dicey. The Commanders, Jaden Daniels is banged up right now. In the West, the Niners are not playing great. The Cardinals are already lost to them. The Rams lost to them. The Seahawks, every team, except for the Niners, they play later in the year. But every team other than the Niners has lost to the Lions if you're in the NFC West. So I think it's the Eagles. I think the Eagles got a great chance. They got the best chance to do it. Now, does that mean they will do it? Well, we'll have to wait and see once we get to the playoffs. But this team at this moment, I think, has the best chance to knock them off. But we'll find out if that ends up happening. But let me know what you guys think about this game. Who do you think wins? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our next break. And then when we come back, we'll take a look at the college football matchups for this weekend. We'll take a look back at some of the scores from last week. Also, we'll talk about the early games for Sunday in the NFL. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the college football matchups for this weekend, as well as the early slate of games for Sunday. So kind of just go through some of the games from last week in college football. Colorado improved to 8-2 on the season. So, right now they're in first place. Well, they're tied for first place in the Big 12 with BYU. And obviously, Shedeur Sanders and Deion have been topic of conversation when it comes to the NFL. Where's Shedeur going to end up? He's recently said in an interview that his favorite player is Malik Neighbors. And then, also Deion was asked on, about maybe going to the NFL, but he said he's happy where he is. So we'll see if, his tune changes. But they're 8-2. You got to give him a lot of credit. I know we in our production meeting, we talked about who should win Coach of the Year, and he's, of course, up there. So we'll see. We'll see how this season finishes out for Colorado. But, they picked up a 49-24 victory over Utah. Clemson picked up a win over Pitt, 24-20. They improved to 8-2 on the season. Ohio State improves to 9-1 on the year, winning at Northwestern, 31-7. Florida beat LSU 27-16. They get back to 500. LSU drops to 6-4. Notre Dame improves to 9-1 on the season. They win 35-14 over Virginia. SMU beat Boston College 38-28. Stanford pulling off the upset win over Louisville 38-35. South Carolina defeated Mizzou 34-30. Georgia beat Tennessee 31-17, so that was a big win for them. Oregon only winning by 3 against Wisconsin, 16-13. They're 11-0 on the year. BYU actually suffered their first loss against Kansas last weekend. So that was a big loss there. But going into this week, one of the biggest matchups of the week, probably the biggest matchup of the weekend in college football, is that Indiana Hoosiers Ohio State game. Hoosiers coming in at 10-0 on the year. They are number 5 right now. They're ranked number 5 in the country. Ohio State is 2. And, I'm seeing all the TikToks and the memes. You had the one TikTok I saw is, with the Rocky and Drago touching gloves before their fight in Rocky 4. And Indiana's Rocky and Ohio State is Drago. So it's going to be a tough game. And listen, I went to the game when Ohio State played Nebraska. They didn't play great. That ended up being a close game. Now you got a 10-0 team coming in. And we'll really see, what Indiana is made of in this matchup. Because if they end up losing, this could be a Florida State scenario where they're just out of the discussion of being in the playoffs. And that would be unfortunate because, they've been undefeated this whole time. You lose one game. But that just it shows you how different it is when it comes to college to the pros. And also it might depend because also we discussed this too in the production meeting is how they lose. Like if they end up losing a close game where it's back and forth and you lose on like a game-winning field goal, then you're probably still going to get some consideration. But, if Ohio State ends up blowing Indiana out, then their chances probably fade. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm really intrigued with this matchup. And, they're 10.5-point underdogs. Weather's not supposed to be nice. I do think Ohio State's going to win. But I would like to see, them pull off an upset. Because they are one of those unlikely teams that are, right now they're in first place. And, nobody really expected them to, I shouldn't say that. Oregon's in first place, my mistake. But they've played one more game than them. But, this is one of these unlikely stories, and you want to see that continue. So, but they're going to have to really pull off an upset here. So we'll see. But I still have Ohio State winning that matchup. And then, that's really the most enticing game. Texas is playing Kentucky. I think they should win that. You do have Army against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a 14-point favorite. Alabama's playing Oklahoma later in the day as well. They're 13.5-point favorites. Boise State is facing off against Wyoming. Right now they're ranked 12. Penn State's playing the Golden Gophers. Colorado's playing Kansas. So, not a lot of, at least looking at the top 25 matchups, not a lot of enticing matchups. That's really the matchup of the weekend is Indiana and Ohio State. So we'll see what happens. But I do like Ohio State to win that matchup. Now, can Indiana keep it within the number? I'm going to say they do. But like I said, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But who do you guys have winning that matchup? Let me know in the comments. But we are nearing the end of the college football regular season, and we will finally see how this new playoff format goes. I'm really intrigued by it. So now we move on to the NFL, the early slate of games. So we'll start off with the New York Giants and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Tommy DeVito will be getting the start in that matchup. Mike Evans is coming back for the Buccaneers, so that's a huge boost for this offense. They really have needed it desperately. I think they also needed the bye week too. Get healthier and just kind of hit the reset button and get ready for this final stretch run here because they are not out of it. They aren't. The Falcons, they could have very easily put this team away. They have not. And don't look now, but the Saints have won their last 2 games. They're starting to play better ball. So, the Falcons got to pick up the pace here. Otherwise, they're on a bye this week, but, they better be careful. Otherwise, they might be leapfrogged in the division. I still think the Bucks have the best chance right now. The Saints, yeah, they've won their last 2, but they beat the Falcons, who've been inconsistent, and they beat the Browns too. So, I give them credit, but I think it's going to come down to the Falcons and the Bucks. And the Bucks have, a light finish to the season. Their toughest game left on the schedule, in my opinion, is the Chargers game. And that's in Week 15. So, the other games, I think, you got the Panthers twice, although the Panthers, they've won 2 straight. So, give them credit. But I do think the Bucks, they have a nice, they have a good chance to get back in this thing and maybe win the division. But it starts on Sunday. And I do think they get the win against the Giants. Right now, the Giants are 6-point underdogs. That number is a little high. And, the Giants are coming off of a bye. And maybe with Tommy DeVito in there, that, gives them a little bit of a spark, a little bit of energy, even though there are players that are not happy with the move to move off of Daniel Jones. And not only is he the 4th stringer now, but now they had him playing safety in practice. Excuse me, I'm holding back a sneeze, but yeah, they had him playing safety. Oops, jeez. Apologize for that. I've been good lately. It hasn't really happened, but I did the best I could with holding it back. But anyways, so that's what happens when you talk about Daniel Jones. That's what ends up happening to you. But anyways, that bad joke. Yeah, they had him playing safety in practice. Just why you even just let him go home or something. I agreed with that. I know the Michael K show, they were talking about it. Like, why even having him do that? But I think the Giants could maybe cover the number. Not 100% on it yet. Going back and forth with it. But I think the Bucks win this game, get themselves, back to their winning ways, and improve to 5-6. But the number might be a little bit too big. Then there's another big number, and that's the Panthers getting 11 points against the Chiefs. Chiefs coming off of that loss against the Bills. Listen, the Chiefs have failed to cover a lot of spreads this year. I think if there's any week that they could do it, it's this week right here. I like the Chiefs to win and win big. Coming off of that loss against the Bills, you're frustrated. I think this is the team where this is a get-right game for the Chiefs. So I like them to win this game and cover, get themselves back to their winning ways, get to 10-1 on the year. Interesting game in the NFC North. You got the Vikings and the Bears. The Bears looked a little bit better offensively against the Packers. They're 3.5-point underdogs at home. But here, I think the Vikings should win this game, and I think they cover the number as well. Sam Darnold is not playing as good as he was in the beginning of the year. He did have, how many touchdown passes did he have? He had 2 touchdown passes against the Titans. I think they win this game here. I think they cover the number. But I'm curious to see how the Bears look. Can they, continue to improve offensively again? Swift ran the ball well last week. Caleb Williams looked a little bit better. So let's see now, week 2 after, the second week after firing their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. How does it look against the Vikings? We'll see. Then we got the Titans and the Texans. It's a big number, 8 points. Will Levis has looked okay since he's come back from injury. So maybe that layoff kind of helped him. The Texans coming off of that big win against the Cowboys. They got Nico Collins back. Joe Mixon had 3 touchdowns. The number is tough. That 8 points is a lot. I like the Texans to win, of course, but that number at 8 points is a lot of points. So I might lean towards taking the Texans and laying the points, but I don't feel good about it. But, I like the Texans, though, to win. The Lions against the Colts. Colts are 7.5-point underdogs at home. They're coming off of that win against the Jets. Anthony Richardson looked a lot better in that game. The Lions, coming off of that performance against the Jaguars, scoring 52 points. I do like the Lions to win. The number is a little big, too, but, the Lions have been, beating up on everybody, so I'm just going to take them and lay the points, even though I don't feel good about it. This game, I am going to take the points, and that's the Dolphins and the Patriots. The Dolphins are 7-point favorites, and the Dolphins usually, they beat up on the Patriots, but I think Drake May has played really well since he stepped in as the starting quarterback. The Patriots look like they have their quarterback of the future, so that didn't take long. But I think the Patriots could keep it within the number. I think the Dolphins win, but I'm going to take the Patriots with the points. The Dolphins, I mean, if it wasn't for that wide open touchdown to Jonnu Smith towards the end of the game, the Raiders probably cover against them. The Raiders kept it close with them, and the Raiders have 2 wins. The Patriots have 1 more. So I think the Patriots keep it close, but Dolphins win. And then we got the Cowboys and the Commanders. Now, this is a big number as well. Commanders are 11-point favorites. That's a big number. I like the Commanders to win, but the Cowboys just are not very good. Commanders, they had some time off. They had the mini bye week, playing last Thursday against the Eagles. So, I like the Commanders to win. You got Dan Quinn coaching against his former team. I'm going to take the Commanders to win and cover. The Cowboys are kind of one-dimensional. They really can only throw the football. They really can't run it. The defense has not been great. And Dan Quinn knows that defense, so he's going to know how to exploit it. So, yeah, I think the Commanders win by a couple of scores here. So I'll take them as well. So those are all the early window games as well as the college football matchups for this weekend, as well the big college football matchups for this weekend. Let me know what you guys think about any of the games. Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our final break of the show now. And when we come back, we will take a look at the remaining 2 games that we have to preview. The other late window games for Sunday, and that will conclude the show for the week. So with that being said, one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the final part of the show, we are going to take a look at the remaining late window games in the NFL for this weekend, and we got the Broncos and the Raiders and the Cardinals and the Seahawks. So we'll start off with the Broncos and the Raiders. So the Raiders are 2-8. It's been a lost season for them. It really has. Sorry, my dog just started barking. I thought they were going to be a little bit better. I was hoping that Antonio Pierce would be, the guy. And, it just looks like he could be one and done. Who knows? It has really been a lost season for them. Because I thought, last year, they beat the Chiefs on Christmas. It seemed like things were turning around for them. But, things are kind of back to square one. Now, you got Tom Brady as a part-time owner, so maybe, that helps. And who knows? We can maybe see Shedeur Sanders get drafted there, because that's also another possible spot for him is Vegas. But, yeah, it's been a rough year for them. Now, there's some things to like. You got Brock Bowers, who looks like he's going to be a good player for them. But there's still a lot of work that needs to be done with this team. I was I mean, look, I didn't have them making the playoffs or anything, but, I had them winning 8 games, and, they are not going to come close to that. But, on the other side, you got the Broncos who are playing really good football. And Bo Nix has looked really good. He's looked better and better each week. He's got 14 touchdown passes to 6 picks. 2,275 passing yards. And, I said Jane Daniels was in the lead for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think you might have to say it's probably Bo Nix. And especially, we might see both teams in the playoffs. But, the fact that the Broncos have a chance to make the playoffs when I really just did not have any expectations for them this year. I didn't think they were going to win that many games. But you got to give them a lot of credit. You got to give Sean Payton a lot of credit. He got his quarterback, and they're playing well. They're playing well. And this team's only going to get better. This team is only going to get better. And they've come a long way, the Broncos, since that game against the Dolphins last year where they gave up 70 points. Now going into this game, the Raiders are at home. They're 6-point underdogs, but the Broncos are the better team here. I think the Broncos cover this number. I think the Raiders, they kind of packed it in. They were competitive against the Dolphins, but, I just think the Broncos, like I said, better team here. And, Bo Nix is playing really well. I think the Broncos win and they cover this number. I think they win by at least a touchdown here. And they improve to 7-5. And, like I said, they're sitting in a good spot right now. The Chargers, both those AFC West teams, besides the Chiefs. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the year we were going to see 3 AFC West teams make the playoffs? Probably would have said 3 AFC North teams. Now, we're probably going to at least get 2, but we really only thought the only AFC West team making the playoffs this year was going to be the Chiefs. Now, things are not set in stone yet, but we're kind of heading towards that. So I do like the Broncos to win and cover the 6-point spread. Then we got the NFC West. Going to match up there between the 6-4 Cardinals, the first place 6-4 Arizona Cardinals, against the 5-5 Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks coming off of that win against the 49ers at the end. Cardinals coming off of a bye week. This game is a home game for the Seahawks. This one's a tough game to pick. This one is a tough game to pick. Both quarterbacks have been, decent this year. Geno Smith, he has 11 touchdowns to 11 picks, but he does have almost 3,000 yards passing. Kyler Murray has 12 touchdowns to 3 picks. He's been solid this year, and he's played a big part in why the Cardinals have improved this year. Last year, missed most of the year, and, had he played the whole season, who knows what record the Cardinals want to finish with, but, you kind of figure that the Cardinals were going to finish with a better record this season with him playing the full year, and that's what's going to happen. And that right now, they are in first place in the NFC West. Nobody really expected that. So you got to give him credit. Jonathan Gannon, he's another guy that could be up for Coach of the Year, depending on how the rest of the season plays out. The Seahawks right now are the underdog at home. I actually do like the Seahawks in this spot. I think these teams are going to split. I do think you'll have the Seahawks split, get the win at home, and then the Cardinals maybe get them when they play in Arizona later in the year. I've been impressed with what I've seen from Jackson Smith and Jigba, their second-year wide receiver. He's played on a bigger role. The Seahawks have 2 good running backs. The Cardinals have a good running back of their own in James Conner. The Seahawks defense last week, they played really well against the Niners. They made it hard on that offense. And I think here being at home, I feel like they're going to give Kyler Murray some problems. I feel like this is a game that Kyler Murray might not play as well. But we'll see. And, now my friends are talking about something, and I'm looking at this right now. And all right, so we got breaking news. So remember how I said they had Daniel Jones playing safety? So John Mara just released a statement, the owner of the Giants, and he said, in regards to Daniel Jones, Daniel came to see me this morning and asked if we would release him. We mutually agreed that would be best for him and for the team. Daniel has been a great representative of our organization, first class in every way. His handling of this situation yesterday exemplifies just that. We are all disappointed in how things have worked out. We hold Daniel in high regard and have a great appreciation for him. We wish him nothing but the best in the future. So there you have it, folks. Daniel Jones, not only did he get benched and made the fourth string, then got put, they had him playing safety. He is now released. And it was under his request, which I don't blame him at all for that, because the media did ask him if he was going to stick around the team with his benching, and he said that, he didn't give a definitive answer. That he said he was still processing everything. So I think this was right for him. Get a head start on, okay, all right, my camera is acting up and now making a weird face here. But this was I think this was the best. Just get him out of there, because, there's just no point. With him being the fourth string and you're having him, play safety in practice. I mean, what are we doing? But I'll have more things to say about it on Monday. But that's, I'm a little bit surprised that this happened. I thought he would still at least be on the team. I mean, obviously, I knew they were gonna part ways with him at some point. I just didn't think it was gonna be at this very moment. But no, they move off of Daniel Jones, and now he's officially released. And I'm really curious to see where he can end up. Where could he go? There's definitely going to be a team that does pick him up. And you know what? It would not surprise me if he ends up going to another team and playing well and pulling a Geno Smith, who we just talked about, and Sam Darnold. He's just got to be coached properly. So my dog continues to bark. Apologize for that. She's been good lately, but, I don't know what she just, sometimes it's like, well, I mean, she hears things that we might not hear, but it's just, to us, it's like you're barking at nothing. So, but yeah, Daniel Jones officially released by the Giants. We'll get into that more next week. So to kind of just run through the picks again. So I got the Buccaneers, I got the 49ers, I got the Chiefs, Vikings, Texans, Lions. I got the Patriots covering against the Dolphins, Commanders, Broncos. I got the Seahawks. I got the Eagles. And then, of course, we'll preview the game between the Ravens and the Chargers, the Har Bowl, on Monday. But, so some breaking news before we ended the show here. And I guess, maybe you kind of figured after the letter that he read to the media that it was going to happen. But yeah, it was the right move for both sides that he ended up getting released. Because what they had him going through in practice, I mean, that was, in a way that was pretty disrespectful. His play on the field did not equal, his attitude and, his dedication, and, just the kind of attitude that he had. He tried his best. It's not like he, took plays off and, wasn't a hard worker. He was a hard worker. It's just the play didn't reflect on the field. And believe me, I wanted it to work, but it just wasn't going to happen. So we'll see how the rest of the season plays out for the Giants. But, it is kind of sad, how things ended. But it is what it is. So that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the games. And I will talk to you guys on Monday. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't